Hey guys, it's Woody the Unexceptional Gamer, and this is another video that's not really about the gameplay. Um, here's how the video was kind of born. I put up one recently where I showed my setup, right? I showed the man cave, which is, the room that I record in and, play games in and stuff like that. It's kind of my office in the house. So people had an interest in it, and I did a setup video, and in it, Colin was there. Colin was on the bed, and yeah, he was only in it for the first minute or so. But in it, he kind of did, some Colin like things, which is to say, he, spoke in non words. He had some words in there too, but he had some non words. And a lot of guys were like, Woody, is your son a little less? Is your son retarded? Is this? Is that? And I thought I'd, talk about Colin for a little bit. There's a lot of you who don't really know his deal. So when Colin was 2 years old, he wasn't talking yet. So normally, kids get their first words somewhere right around the 1 year mark, call it 10 to 14 months. And Colin being 2 years old and not really saying mama or anything like that yet, we took him to the doctors, to see what was up. And it was kind of at my insistence. My wife was like, stop trying to grade children. Don't compare him to the other kids and stuff like that. And it's like, honey, it's not about being competitive or anything. It's about, does Colin need help, some sort of help? Do we need to know what's going on? So, I really expected them to say, nah, you guys just need to settle down a little while. Kids develop at different rates and, don't fear. But what they actually said was, your kid's autistic. And I was like, what? No, that doesn't seem right. He's not autistic because, autistic kids don't connect with other people. Autistic kids don't recognize, like, this is the character, the typical autistic kid. They don't sort of get that other people are in the room. They don't sort of, like, they're just in their own world. And that's not really the case with Colin. Colin's very much like social. And I was like, how sure are you? And the lady was like, well, personally, I'm not really sure. I'm not qualified to say. But the woman who made the diagnosis, she's been doing this for 10, 15 years now, and she's more than qualified to say. And there's no doubt about it, your kid's autistic. So that was that. And at first, like, it was almost like dealing with death in the family type thing. Like, at first it was I denied it and thought they were wrong, and then I kind of recognized that in myself, and I went through this acceptance. And I remember one time I was coming home from work, and I just sat on my front porch thing and cried because it wasn't like, I guess the core of it was that I was worried about his future, right? I was worried that that he wasn't going to have, oh no, bad grenade, that he wasn't going to have the future that everybody wants for their kids. So that was my primary concern. And that's something that I still concern myself with. But so let's fast forward. What we learned next was that, like, the next couple of years were really critical. That the kind of development he had, up until, like, whatever, 10 years old or 8 years old or something like that, was really, really important. And that's when we started, like, taking him to therapy and running into debt. That was a big part of it. So he went to speech therapists, occupational therapists, physical therapist, a developmental neurologist, two of those. He went to, like, I can't even name everybody. He had multiple speech therapists because we get varying opinions and stuff. And he was going to therapy of one kind or another, like 6 days a week. There's 6 times a week. Sometimes it'd be 2 a days. And he, when you add in, like, doctor's appointments and stuff like that, then it'd be even more frequently. So we would spend, I guess, on a light year, like $15,000 on his medical care, and on our heaviest year, it was $45,000, which is a lot. I had a pretty good job, but just the same, we kind of found some debt in the process. But that's the sort of thing that parents in these situations do, right? Sometimes they take out a mortgage on their home, and that's the thing about healthcare, right? Like, when it comes to healthcare, like, you just pay whatever they charge. I could go on about healthcare and capitalism, but I'm more or less a capitalist, but sometimes I wonder with healthcare if it's a good solution because, they sort of got you by the balls, and you'll mortgage your house, you'll put yourself in the debt, you'll do anything, and it's not even related to the cost of healthcare, right? You do that for a penicillin pill if it would save your life. Back on topic. So after a couple years of that, eventually some of his problems started fading away, like the social stuff, right? There were years where Colin would wear like 40 band-aids at one time. He would be afraid of other kids. Like if he loved playing on like swing sets and slides and park equipment, but he hated being around other kids. So if there was like another kid even on the slide, he wouldn't want anything to do with that entire park, and that wasn't good. So he struggled in school. Academically, it's a challenge for him, and I should talk more about like why, but we ended up homeschooling him, and now academically he does much better. Socially, he's great. A lot of his therapists and stuff have said, like, you know what, he just doesn't need a occupational therapist anymore. He's getting along well socially, perfectly, right? That he just take it off, and he still goes to speech therapy, but that's his primary thing. And since then, he's kind of been, can you say, undiagnosed with autism? Autism's a spectrum disease, if you don't know. So you can diagnose almost anybody with autism, including you, right? My wife's an expert in all these autism symptoms, and she'd be able to hang out with you for 5 minutes and say, yeah, you I don't know, eat the same food all the time. And it seemed like he was damned if he did and damned if he didn't on this autism diagnosis a lot. Like, I remember one time he was lining up his cars like in a straight line and stuff, and they'd say, no, if you're going to, if you're gonna, play with your cars in that way, then you can't do it. So then another time he what they did called fluffing, right? Where he would take his like cars or trains or whatever and sort of scatter them. And they're like, nope, that's autistic too. And it's like, really? Like, so everything he does, you're just going to call autistic, right? Whether he plays with his toys neatly or sloppy, it's autistic to you. Like, that's how this process goes. Anyone who's been there knows the deal. So, back on topic, they, eventually the medical costs started lightening up a little bit because he had fewer symptoms, and the one thing that really persists is this the way that he has a hard time talking, and for whatever reason, like, he just can't get the words out. He's not stupid, right? He learns well, but it's almost like you have to teach a non-English speaker, if that makes any sense. Like, imagine if you spoke Japanese or something and they dropped you in your school, how capable would that person be of learning? Well, they're smart, they know what they're doing, and if you could teach them math with what they call manipulables, things that you can move and touch and whatever, then he'll pick up at the same kind of pace that anybody else would. If you could teach them I'm trying to think this through. If you could teach them, English or whatever without pronouncing words and really understanding the words, then he would be in good shape. But he's just at a severe disadvantage, given that, his ability to listen and his ability to speak are so hindered that that's why his schooling is bad. Not because he's retarded, which is like a different kind of problem that kids would have. So yeah, it sometimes he's diagnosed with just speech dyspraxia or oral, what do they call that? Oral motor dysfunction of some sort, and that's who Colin is. So yeah, he's not dumb, but his ability to sort of process language and understand, that what they call his expressive and his receptive language are both way behind the curve, and it gets better all the time. It gets better in these peaks and valleys, right? Sometimes 6 months goes by and I'm like, oh my gosh, it feels like he's not improving. And look at that. I got Last Stand bullshitted or something. Sometimes, 6 months goes by and it's like, man, he's not really improving. Then there's other times, like right now, where it's like, wow, he's sort of getting these conversations. It's going back and forth. I can say almost anything to him and I get appropriate answers. Like, Colin, where's your sister? Oh, she's upstairs. Like, oh, that's really cool. So yeah, anyway, I thought you guys would be interested in who Colin is and what he does. A lot of times guys are like, is he going to have his own YouTube channel? Maybe someday. I mean, his future's not written yet. But as it is now, he's just not the speaker that he'd need to be. But we're working on it. We devote pretty much our entire lives to making sure that he's going to be okay. All right, 2 videos you may have missed. The top one is Mail Monday. It's always a popular series. I talk about Colin briefly because people ask about him. A guy who is struggling with his own girlfriend's sexy past. The guy who has unsupportive parents. I thought that was an especially good one. Another guy who's a toxic friend and needs to be a better friend. So good Mail Monday. The bottom one is about Drop Zone, and it's a brand new game mode coming to Modern Warfare 3, at least in the public arena. And I give some tips on how to play that well because I'm really, really enjoying that game mode. So anyway, I hope you guys like the videos and have a good day.